What's up, everybody? Today is kind of a late recap of the PlayStation Showcase from yesterday, but thought I'd give my thoughts for it, especially now that dust has settled. I think it's always good to not always make quick judgments right off the bat, because as you'll see watching this video, uh, we have gotten information not only from PlayStation, but we've seen some of these other games dropped that are being announced by not only Xbox but Nintendo. And even during the showcase, we saw that some of these games are coming to PC. So let's jump right in. So we'll do a real quick recap. Here's the PlayStation blog. Everything announced at today's show. The big ones, really, I think that surprised everybody was definitely the Metal Gear Solid Delta Snake Eater. Right off the bat, like all we saw was a video. We got no gameplay, but then later they did reveal a few screenshots that, they made it look pretty good, but hard to tell. I mean, you're not seeing the game run live or anything. We got a little bit more in depth on Street Fighter. The big thing at the end was Spider-Man 2. I think we had over 10 minutes of gameplay. If you're a big Spider-Man fan, then you probably thought it was pretty cool. If you're not a Spider-Man fan, interested for your thoughts, pretty interesting because it looks like all the way through it's not just going to be Peter Parker, but Miles Morales. And you're going to kind of go back and forth with the whole symbiote thing. It makes you wonder kind of at some point, I'm not a comic book Spider-Man fan, but I've watched a lot of the cartoons, especially back in the day. The old school Fox Spider-Man is probably my favorite as a kid, and as we know, symbiote Spider-Man, especially in that one, that was bad. So kind of makes me wonder if at some point, you'll take control of Miles Morales and you're gonna have to fight Peter Parker Spider-Man. But anyway, I was a decent fan of the first Spider-Man and the Miles Morales game. So we'll see. Comic books aren't my favorite games and stuff, and I think superheroes are getting a little bit worn out for some people maybe, but it still looked solid. Anyway, let's go over the rest of this. Regardless, so we can see here, Fair Games, a competitive heist experience, and even right here it says coming to PS5 and PC. Helldivers 2, PS5, Concord, a PvP multiplayer first-person shooter from Firewalk Studios, coming to PS5 and PC again. Alan Wake 2 launches on PS5. We'll talk about that a little bit more. We saw some Assassin's Creed Mirage gameplay. One of the big surprises is if you kind of like the more open world RPGs like Oblivion, Skyrim, and whatnot, then you may have played the original Dragon's Dogma. Got a kind of sort of remaster later. I think the original version came out during the Xbox 360, PlayStation 3 days. So this is a sequel long in the making. Has a huge cult following, so that could be really cool. We got a new launch trailer for Final Fantasy 16, which we know is a PS5 exclusive, at least for now. I'm expecting that to come to at least PC later. Foam Stars looked like kind of a Splatoon ripoff, except for, I don't know, gameplay and stuff looked a little wonky to me. Grand Blue Fantasy Relink. This game's been a long time in the making. I mean, I saw info on this game going back, I don't know, 3, 4, maybe 5 years ago. So that looks pretty cool. I expect that is definitely going to probably hit other platforms too, though I don't think, seen anything explicit about that one yet. a new Immortals of Avium trailer, Tower of Fantasy, an immersive cyberpunk open world RPG. That actually, I hadn't heard of that. That looks pretty interesting. They did a PS2 VR2 little tiny showcase. Uh, to me, they still haven't justified the price of PlayStation 5 VR. Um, it hasn't seemed that great so far. Um, they announced Beat Saber. I think later after the fact, even though they announced the Queen Music Pack, I think later in the day they did announce that I believe it is a free upgrade if you owned it on original PlayStation VR. So I guess that's something if you've invested the hundreds and hundreds of dollars into buying both versions of PlayStation VR. They showed Resident Evil 4 VR mode. I find it interesting that it's not just Resident Evil 4 VR, but it's VR mode. Makes me wonder if it's not the whole game. I'm kind of curious what's going on with that. Arizona Sunshine 2, I'm not super familiar with that title. Crossfire Sierra Squad, Five Nights at Freddy Help Wanted 2, immersive PS2 VR action shooter Synops. Again, like not super familiar with a lot of those. As a lot of people said yesterday, I don't think there was anything showed off there that would make you think you got to run out and go buy PlayStation VR if you don't already have it. And so that continues to be a problem. I think they've sold under 1 million PlayStation VR 2 so far, and we're quite a ways in. So I don't think it's doing super great, even though they say that's better than the first PlayStation VR. So we got some indie games: Ghost Runner 2, Plucky Squire, Sword of the Sea, Teardown, a new Cat Quest, Neva, Revenant Hill, Towers of Agshaba, Talos Principle 2, Ultros. I think Ultros looked kind of interesting. Talos Principle 2, like, I'm sure if you enjoyed the first one, that probably looked pretty cool. Cat Quest has its own following, I think. And Ghost Runners came to just about everything the first time around, including the Switch. I know on the Switch it had a really rocky start. I think it's the channel Switch Up has done some follow-up videos on Ghost Runners, and I think they made a lot of progress fixing it and making it run a lot smoother. So you could check out the video from those guys if you're interested in the first game. So where would I rate this? Still got a little bit more. They also announced wireless earbuds. They didn't give us a lot. So they're Bluetooth. They can connect to everything. They'll offer lossless low latency audio on PS5 and PC. Sony says it has achieved this via new wireless technology, which, like this article says, that's really vague. Sony was really vague about all the hardware they talked about yesterday. They feature a monochromatic, edgy design that is reminiscent of the PS5's design and of the different Pulse 3D wireless headsets. So it's likely they'll charge over USB-C. If they don't, that would be shocking. They do have an included built-in microphone. And other than that, they said they're launching later this year. And that's about it. Like, so without knowing, without them actually launching when they announce them, it's hard to say anything about them. I know some of the Sony headsets have pretty good reviews, but there's a lot of people that still didn't think they were worth the money. So with no price point, no idea of how good the microphone is, and the audio quality, not just for games, but if you're sitting watching Netflix or whatever on your PlayStation, it's going to be hard to say. Then finally, they also announced Project Q. This is really interesting because it's literally uh, just allows you to stream games that not only that you have to own, but they got to be on your PS5 and they have to be installed. So it makes me, you know, wonder, I'm assuming your PS5 is going to have to, stay online, that you can't completely power it off. It's going to have to at least, be in standby mode all the time. Um, Looking at it, it looks like it literally broke the PS5 controller in half, except for they cut out the little middle part with the touchpad. Um, Looks like it's maybe slightly different on the bottom part here, and I slapped it onto a screen. If it's using all the same technology as PS5, I expect that part of it by itself could actually end up being more expensive than even what their cost is on the PS5 controller. It's hard to say, but because I have to integrate it on both sides separately like that, I don't know. It's got an 8-inch screen. I don't even know if they said what type of screen, if it has an 8-inch HD screen. It's an inch larger than Steam Deck and the Nintendo Switch. So yeah, they said they hope in this article that it's an OLED, so we don't even know what type of screen. Looks like it could be 1080p with only a 60 hertz refresh. I mean, I think that's fine for, I think 1080p is more than adequate for an 8-inch screen. But yeah, I'm really curious what it's going to cost, and the fact that like it requires your PS5 to be on. And the games, like it's not just accessing your games. We're talking remote play, and so you've got to have the games installed and everything. And so, really curious what the price is going to be, because yeah, let's look at this. This from Jeff. This is the guy that does the Game Awards every year. Yeah, all of the buttons and features of DualSense wireless controller, including the adaptive triggers and haptic feedback. So yeah, but no specs on the screen as far as OLED or IPS or anything like that. So, if this is very expensive, this article up here is wrong. Well, for one, it's only comparing it to an OLED Switch, which would be $299 for the regular version, not $349. And then Steam Deck starts at $399, and I believe there is a $499 version and then like a $649 version or $599 or something at the high end. But Steam Deck does not start at $499. It indeed starts at $399, and PS5 starts at $399 without a disc drive and $499 with a disc drive. So some of these numbers in here aren't correct. Anyway, yeah, this is interesting device. But yeah, I don't think it's that amazing. We'll have to see. I mean, like if it does offer some other things like surfing the web or Netflix, YouTube, stuff like that, then, maybe it'd be kind of cool if you can do some other stuff on it. But yeah, if it's very expensive, then I don't think it's going to be very successful. And I'm not sure Sony has learned their lesson. Even the PlayStation TV, which was basically a Vita that had no screen or anything, you hooked up to your TV. They never even took advantage of that. They could have turned that into a set-top box, and they never did. So anyway, with all that being said, so how do we judge all this? So right off the bat, it looked like, yeah, here's a lot of information. Metal Gear Solid Remake of Metal Gear Solid 3, which is a lot of people's favorite Metal Gear. They also, that list I read earlier, that didn't include, on that list for some reason, didn't show the Metal Gear Solid original trilogy, which is also coming to PlayStation. I have not heard word on if that's showing up anywhere else, but let's go over to Xbox. So, like, later yesterday after the event ended, right off the bat, hey, look what's coming to Xbox. Immortals of Avium, Ghost Runner 2, Marathon, Metal Gear Solid, Delta, Snake Eater, Dragon Dogmas 2, Alan Wake 2, The Plucky Squire, Teardown, Assassin's Creed Mirage, Neva, Cat Quest, and Talos Principle 2. Then even on Nintendo, they didn't have a lot, but we can see here, Nintendo America, they put out a trailer for Neva, and if we scroll down here a little bit, we can see that Convergence, which I believe was also announced during the PlayStation Showcase, also coming to Switch. And so, with all this content coming to other consoles and some of it coming to PC, now how good is the event? Because they showed off all this content. Yeah, maybe they showed it off first because they went early in May when most of these other guys are going to be having their events in June, because they're all bypassing E3. E3 may be dead at this point, who knows? But yeah, so you got Immortals, Ghost Runner, Marathon, Dragon's Dogma, Metal Gear, Mirage, Talos Principle 2 are the big ones there. Again, there's nothing said about the original trilogy. That could stay PlayStation exclusive, considering Metal Gear Solid 1 came out on PlayStation and Metal Gear Solid 2 and 3 came out on PS2, so maybe they're going to use, some of their backwards compatibility stuff to release those. But again, I want to be surprised if those come out to everything. Konami has been doing that lately. I mean, we got Castlevania, the Game Boy Advance games. They previously have, re-released Symphony of the Night and Rondo of Blood on different, devices and whatnot. So I wouldn't be surprised, even though I haven't seen anything yet. It is cool that Metal Gear Solid is alive, even though it's all old content. But yeah, so all of a sudden, like, this event looks like it has all this cool stuff, and then come to find out, all the same content is coming to PC, Xbox, and some of it Nintendo Switch. So, what to me was already kind of a mediocre event from PlayStation, because the only things I really saw that interested me was Snake Eater, because that's a remake of my favorite Metal Gear Solid game of all time, and Spider-Man, and without that, and maybe Dragon's Dogma 2. I've played some Dragon's Dogma, not a ton. Seemed really solid, but like it never drew me in. It's had a lot of other games that always pulled my attention away from it. And so, yeah, there's tons of Assassin's Creed fans out there, but we all know Assassin's Creed comes to, Steam, Uplay, PlayStation, Xbox, I doubt it will come to Switch, but unless, Nintendo has a new console to announce up their sleeve here really soon. But yeah, so like all of a sudden it's like, wow, like all Sony really had at the event that was exclusive was that most people are going to really care about is really, that we know of so far is the trilogy for Metal Gear Solid, which could easily come to everything else. And they have Spider-Man, and they have, Project Q and their wireless PS5 earbuds. So yeah, like I say, it was never for me a good event, and I was kind of thinking the event went kind of badly, especially when he came up at the end before they showed off the Spider-Man footage and made it sound like they had some cool announcements. There've been rumors of a PS5 Pro announcement on a few places, and there's been rumors for a while that, there would be a new PlayStation revision coming out that might not have a disk drive at all, but you'd be able to buy a standalone drive. And we've had these different rumors. And with Project Q, a lot of people discounted that it was even real. And so to not get any other hardware news at all, 3 years in, I feel like an event like this, you're usually announcing stuff for like the next year. And so, maybe Sony will have another event later, but like going into a fourth year next year, like it would be surprising not to have some sort of like revision based on Sony's past. They usually revise their consoles at least once. So, yeah, to me, it almost, after Xbox and other people showed what games were coming out everywhere else, it almost looked like, well, like Sony has Spider-Man. I mean, that's it. So, to me, it looked pretty disappointing. And as an early adopter of the PS5, I don't see a lot of exclusive reasons why, like, I needed to do that. Like, yeah, I have an Xbox, and usually I prefer to play on PS5. I only have a Series S, though. But still, like, I'm not all about the graphics all the time. So it's like I don't have to play the games the best. So I have no problem playing on a Series S. I play a Switch probably more than anything. So, yeah, to me, it almost ended up as a pretty ugly, like they got sucker punched by themselves or something. I don't know. But yeah, what do you guys think? I didn't think it was that good. So, let me know in the comments, and let me know what you think, what you thought, what you think of the new Q handheld. You have thoughts on the earbuds? Sony is known for their wireless earbuds. They're usually the best. So, I expect those should be pretty good. Just with, some improved PlayStation abilities. But yeah, it looks like we're going to see a lot of this on PC or Xbox or Switch. So if you're one of those gamers out there that just doesn't game on a single device, I don't know, do you think this was disappointing? Anyway, until the next video, like and subscribe. I appreciate all of you that have so far, and I will see you in the next one.